3 weeks in the books of the 2025 NFL season. Welcome into Got It Covered. Giovanni Heater alongside Raza Umarani with you. And Raza, week 3 definitely had some enticing matchups, and they didn't disappoint, no question.
Yeah, we looked at this slate and thought, maybe it wasn't as good as week 1 or week 2, especially in that early 1 o'clock window. And then it turned into absolute chaos. All hell was breaking loose. One of the better witching hours of NFL red zone that you'll ever see. One of those times where I'm glad when games were coming down to the wire in the fourth quarter of those games, my team had already kind of wrapped up their win and I could pay more attention to what was happening elsewhere, because it was like you need to have so many screens to keep up with everything, and it was a blast. One of those patented like crazy 1 o'clock window finishes. So, and some pretty interesting primetime games as well. So a very fun week, no doubt about it.
See, you say coming into it, you thought it could be sleepy. I thought when you see like Eagles, Rams in there, Lions, Baltimore in there, even Bills, Dolphins, I thought there were definitely some intriguing matchups. So I'm glad that especially the primetime games kind of lived up to the billing here. And then to your point, the witching hour was unreal. Best place to start is last night, Monday Night Football, final game of the week. What a banger. As the Lions go to Baltimore, take down the Ravens, hand Baltimore its second loss of the season, 38-30, the final score. And this was such a fascinating football game. 17 points by Detroit, though, in the fourth quarter was the difference. They go 3 of 3 on fourth down throughout the game. This was everything that you've come to expect out of Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. You got a little ounce of every bit of their recipe in this win over Baltimore.
I'm glad you mentioned that they were 3 for 3 on fourth down, because I think each of them point towards why not just the Lions won this game, but why the Lions are the Lions, right? I'm pretty sure the first one came on the first drive of the game where they go down and take the lead, right? They had fourth and short from inside the 10. They hit that little out route to Amon-Ra St. Brown and then punch it in on the next play with Jahmyr Gibbs. Then the second fourth down conversion is the first play of the fourth quarter, right? Where they run that incredible little play where Goff hands it to Amon-Ra, who lines up as the fullback in the formation, and then Amon-Ra pitches it to Gibbs, who runs it in for a touchdown. And then the third one, obviously, first play after the 2-minute warning. They're at midfield. This is a classic situation of we are going to die on our sword. They run the play action. Goff throws it right in a bucket for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who dusts Marlon Humphrey, beats him through the holding call. And then Monty ices it on the next play. Patented Lions game, man. Patented Sonic and Knuckles game. They both were incredible. I think they both have over 100 yards in this game. I know Montgomery had 150. Gibbs had a quiet-ish night, just 3 yards a carry, 67 yards, but 2 huge touchdowns. I thought Goff was awesome. It's not going to show in the numbers, but he was very comfortable, particularly, I mean, when you've got a situation where your quarterback is at his most comfortable when the game is on the line, that's what you want. You don't want your guys to get rattled. And the other thing about the Lions, man, I'll say this, and I want to talk about the Ravens. So this is a little bit of a segue because they deserve their flowers. Any rumors of the Lions' demise, greatly exaggerated. Okay, they are just fine. But they do not blink when the going gets tough. You know, like
right.
Baltimore does. And we had Bradley Winterling on the show after week 1 talking about the Ravens-Bills game. And he and so many other Ravens fans talk about how it ties back into coaching. And I think that's right. Dan Campbell and his guys have this trickle-down effect of fighting and scrapping, and they're not going to blink. They're going to stay cool. Derrick Henry has that fumble late in the game that really hurts the Ravens' chance of winning. Again, his third fumble in 3 games is a problem in and of itself. But what happens after that fumble? He goes to the sideline, he throws his helmet, and then he like falls over onto the bench, getting caught in 4K, one of the most embarrassing things a guy of that size and reputation should ever have to deal with. And then it's like, we see it time and time when Lamar gets sacked, which he was 7 times in this game, or when he's trying to wiggle free and he can't do it and he ends up falling to the turf. He's like slamming the ball on the ground. He's like doing this with his helmet and all this, like removing his chin strap. I'm like, Lamar, this is the criticism I've always had of him. You got to stay calm. You're only down by 4. It's okay if you have to punt the ball away or if something like that happens. I understand you don't want to give the game away, but they are, I hesitate to say poorly coached, but it shows so much, Gio, like in the Buffalo game, like in this game or in all the playoff losses they've had, how much of a difference elite coaching can have compared to their kind of run-of-the-mill coaching under John Harbaugh. So great win for the Lions that nobody really gave them a shot to do so. Patented win for them to get their respect back. They deserve the flowers that they're going to get today and moving forward. And with what happened to the Packers, which we'll talk about later, all of a sudden you've got an interesting situation where the NFC North is not settled by any means.
You know, I thought one of the interesting things of this game that I thought really was the difference maker is the fact that in the red zone, the Lions go 4 of 5. And then you look at what Baltimore does in the red zone, they go 2 of 4. And who wins the turnover battle? Detroit is flawless, doesn't give the football away. And of course, Baltimore has the Derrick Henry fumble. Now, that's not on Lamar. It's not an interception. But between their ability to convert in the red zone and take care of the football, this Detroit offense is stellar.
Yeah, they were the far better team on both sides of the ball. They had 7 sacks to Baltimore's 0.
Yeah.
When they had to get down in the red zone and make a play, they did, right? The trick play with the Amon-Ra pitch versus, you know, early in the game, I think it might have been in the first half when the Ravens got stopped 4 times inside the 5. They only give the ball up the gut to Derrick Henry once. The other time they have him try to throw it, and then they run this like zone read RPO with Lamar, who's running for his life, and then he ends up getting strip sacked, and the Lions recover. I understand the Ravens didn't have Kyle Van Noy in this game. I understand they didn't have Nnamdi Madubuike in this game. That's not an excuse for getting your lunch money taken, right? You're the Ravens. You've built this reputation that you're going to be this force in the trenches, and you're going to be the more physical team, and you're going to take it to the other guy. But no, that's what the Lions are, and that's certainly what they were on Monday night. So an amazing win for the Lions. I still think the Ravens are going to be fine, but this ties back to what we said in the preseason. We can't trust them to win big games because we haven't seen it yet. And even in the regular season, these games of consequence against real contenders, they always fall flat. So what happens when they go to Kansas City next week? We'll see.
Fascinating piece of the box score to your point. Montgomery goes 12 carries for 151 yards, 2 scores. Obviously, he had the 72-yarder. Jahmyr Gibbs carried the ball 22 times in this game, had 2 tuds, 67 yards. If you were to tell me which one of those two, though, was going to break a long one, I wasn't going to pick Montgomery. That's a Jahmyr Gibbs kind of a play. Yeah,
he did it twice. The 70-yarder, like you mentioned, which I think was in the first half. Maybe it was in the third quarter, and then obviously the dagger in the fourth quarter after they picked up that 4th down. So the Lions, like to your point, when you look at the box score, you see how kind of lopsided this is. And I hate to completely neglect Lamar Jackson in this conversation because he was awesome. But when the play needed to be made, who made it? Not Lamar. Jared Goff did. So the Lions deserve all the credit in this game for sure.
Yeah. Besides, I mean, the one knock on Lamar, I'd say, is he took 7 sacks.
Yeah, but their offensive line did not do him any favors. That's
sure, but it definitely tanked his QBR in this game.
Right.
Because otherwise he was lethal. I mean, he went 21 of 27 for 288 and 3 tuds. Again, he didn't turn the football over, and then he had 35 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and again, the offensive line didn't do him any favors, but we don't think of the Lions pass rush as being insane outside of Aiden Hutchinson, who had a great game. I saw he had 30 pressures in this game, which is unbelievable for anybody. And also shout out to Al-Qadim Muhammad, who had a breakout game. I have a coworker who's a Lions fan. I have a coworker who's a Lions fan. We've talked about this game nonstop for the last week leading up to it. And we were like crafting a long shot parlay, and I threw in Al-Qadim Muhammad to record a sack. And he was like, that guy's never recording a sack. He had 2.5 in this game. So all of a sudden, if the Lions get production in the front outside of Aiden Hutchinson, it makes them even scarier, even though I think their secondary is not good. Terrion Arnold's being picked on this year, which is not a good sign. But listen, man, that this team's legit, and Clearly don't need Ben Johnson. John Morton's reaching deep into his bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Dan Campbell thing more than anything
Or a
else. So,
golf creativity, you know?
yep, the Lions, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, no question. Last question on this game. Where do you place Baltimore when it comes to competing for the 1 seed in the AFC? Now it almost feels like you're looking at a race between Buffalo and the Chargers. But again, you know
Yeah.
my thoughts on the AFC West and how that division could cannibalize itself. And
Mm-hmm.
the Chargers, though, get this. This is the really fascinating thing about the Chargers. They're 3-0, and they're 3-0 in the division.
Yeah, they've beaten everybody in the division already, which is
It's
nuts. And
crazy.
they've done one at home, one on the road, and one in South America. So like you have nothing to knock the Chargers down right now.
Right.
The Ravens are going to be fine because the back half of their schedule is unbelievably soft. The schedule makers really front loaded their schedule with the Chiefs and the Lions and the Texans and the
And the
Rams,
Bills.
and the Bills in week 1, obviously. So they're gonna go on their little run to finish the year at 13-4, and everyone's gonna love them again, and then it's gonna collapse in the playoffs. I don't think they'll get the 1 seed. They're gonna be in contention for it down the stretch, I would wager. It's obviously Buffalo's to lose, but the fact that it's, late September and we can project how the rest of this Ravens season is going to go just tells you all you need to know about where this franchise is at right now.
Well, it's a good blend right into this conversation about the Chargers and getting to 3-0 with this 23-20 win against Denver on Sunday. How about Justin Herbert? Can we clap it up? I mean, the two best quarterbacks in the National Football League right now, in my opinion, are Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, the way those two are playing. And Goff is probably in that conversation. You could argue Lamar is in that conversation as well. But who's playing better football than Josh Allen and Justin Herbert right now?
There are some folks out there that might throw Daniel Jones's hat in the ring, but I know
I
it's
need to
just
see
week.
more.
I know, but you said this season.
I know. I know
Through
what
3
I
games,
said.
he's
I know
been
what I
very good.
said. He
Like
has.
Daniel, for what it's worth, Daniel Jones has not had a game as quiet as Josh Allen's against the New York Jets.
Didn't account for a single touchdown against the Jets.
But to your point, I think if the season ended today, your MVP would be either Justin Herbert or Baker Mayfield. Mayfield because of his late game heroics, and Herbert because just he's been so consistently great. And I don't think this was a great game for Justin Herbert, but this was a game where he made every play he had to, particularly down the stretch. The game winner, or sorry, the game tire, I should say.
I know what play you're talking about, yeah.
Where he slides up, escapes the sack, rolls left, has to wrap his arm around the defender, rolling to the wrong side, and it's perfectly placed to Keenan Allen on his face mask. Is like, that's the best throw of the season in my opinion.
Tight coverage too.
Yeah, like
there are probably 3 quarterbacks that can make that throw.
Yeah, it's like him and Josh and Patrick Mahomes probably.
Mahomes. Yeah.
So
maybe Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago. We haven't seen this year's Patrick make that throw.
That's true. That's true. We are starting to see more respect being put on Justin Herbert's name. And once again, I will ask you people to go back to the holes that you used to live in, because I don't want you crawling out of your hole and coming over to my side of the argument, which has been the right side of the argument forever. All right. You can stay on that side. Like, maybe Justin Herbert's actually good. No. I saw you all calling him if man and hypothetical man in the offseason. I think we can put to bed the Herbert versus Hurts debate now, but that's aside from the point. 2 things I want to touch on in this game, one about each team. If the Chargers, in a wake of the Najee Harris injury, which is very unfortunate, I hate to see that for him.
Torn Achilles out for the year for those that are out of the loop.
Mm-hmm. If they can unlock Omarion Hampton's full potential, which I think he had his best game as a pro in this game. He did find the end zone.
70 yards, Tud. Yeah.
Because their offensive line is now still figuring itself out as well. And you're not going to face many defenses better than Denver this year, except for when you do it again in Denver later this year. It will take such a load off of Herbert, because I feel like this is a team that wants to be run first. But when you can then set up play action off of your run game in this type of offense with this type of quarterback, it's going to be lethal. Even when guys like Lad McConkey, is like the third most targeted wide receiver in this offense, which is kind of crazy. Bringing back Keenan Allen was a fantastic move on their part. And Quentin Johnston's been their best wide receiver for even dating back to last season. He had some really good games, which is incredible how they've unlocked Johnston like that. And their defense is pretty good. They still have some work to do, particularly in the secondary, which brings me to my Broncos point. There were a number of times where if it didn't matter if it was Cortland Sutton or Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin or whoever, I think I counted 4 separate times where, listen, when you're starting corners are Tarheeb Still and Benjamin St-Juste, you're probably gonna give up a couple deep shots.
You know that a little too well as a Commanders fan.
Yes. Oh yes, I do. I tried to warn you, Charger fans. These Broncos wide receivers are running without other defenders in the frame when the TV pans to them. And Bo Nix overthrows them every single time. I gave him credit for hitting Sutton in the bucket on the 4th down deep shot. I think that was in the first half or maybe early in the second half. The Broncos should have won this game sheerly based on the fact that they could not defend. The Chargers could not defend them down the field.
Right.
But Bo Nix refuses to hit his guys on deep shots. He overthrows them every single time. And I don't understand what the genesis of this problem is, because what was Nix's greatest strength is his accuracy, right? And I understand he's a short to intermediate guy, but the dude's got a really good arm. We saw it at Oregon. We even saw it last year. They need to get him under control, because you can only be short and intermediate so much. He had like 15 completions over 150 yards in this game. It should have been 20 completions for 300 yards, but he just refused to hit his guys. It was offset by the fact that they're running the ball so well. J.K. Dobbins has been a revelation for them, and they still have R.J. Harvey to lean on when necessary, but Dobbins has been fantastic. The Broncos will not reach their full potential if Nix does not stop trolling. There's no other word I can use for it. He's just trolling. And listen, for all this talk that I had to hear in the offseason about Jaden Daniels potentially having a sophomore slump, we need to talk about the one that's happening in Denver right now. And I think they can get it figured out, but he's been extremely underwhelming through 3 games.
The reason I have faith in Denver still is because of who their head coach is. And if anybody can get a quarterback going, it's a guy like Sean Payton. I agree with you fully on the fact that I believe Bo Nix lost the Broncos this game. And let me explain. The Broncos defense held Herbert to probably his most underwhelming performance. He goes 28 of 47, does have 300 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. They sacked Herbert 5 times in this game. Herbert's QBR was 44 on the afternoon. So nothing special or nothing to shout home about. Obviously, he makes that incredible play to tie the game. Bo Nix, 14 of 25, 153 yards, and throws for a touchdown. But the defense was there and did enough, clearly, for the Broncos to win this game. And it was the lack of offense that let them down, and particularly the lack of success throwing the ball, because they ran the ball for almost as many yards as they threw the ball for in this game. Success on the ground was definitely evident with 118 yards as a crew, 83 of them coming on 11 carries from Dobbins, and he got in the end zone as well. So I think Bo Nix lost him this game.
Yeah, and I do think he played his best game last week against Indianapolis, but he still threw the interception late that cost them points. If Bo Nix was just a smidge better, the Broncos would be 3-0. Instead, you're 1-2. And you're looking up at the Chargers, having already lost to them this year, and the Chargers are 3-0 now. The success of this team always was contingent on him. You're starting to see the downsides of if he plays poorly, they're still going to lose games. Because as amazing as their defense is, they don't have the game-changing ability that, like Minnesota, for example, they had 2 defensive touchdowns this week. They don't have the splash ability. They're just very sound.
Yeah.
So they can't make up for Nix's shortcomings.
Good point. Well, we talked about the Chargers. Obviously, they call SoFi Stadium home. But at SoFi Stadium, we had a different banger going on. Philadelphia Eagles go all the way out to L.A. They take
This was
down
in
the
Philadelphia. This
Rams.
one's in Philadelphia.
That's right. What am I saying?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Chargers literally
The
played
Chargers
at
game
home.
was in
The
SoFi.
Chargers
Yeah.
game was at SoFi Stadium. I got it all mixed up. See, when I make the graphics, I've always asked myself, do I need to put this where the winning score is first or the losing score? You know what I'm saying? Or do you do it where the home team is on the right side? I always put the winning score first, and then sometimes it even visual. I watch the game. I know where they played the game.
They also wore their home uniforms, which kind of trips you out as well. The Rams did. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Philadelphia wins this game. What a bizarre NFL football game. Like, rarely do you see a game in the National Football League play out like this. This felt like the most college football thing I've ever seen in the NFL.
This game is the through 3 weeks the champion of most infuriating watch, because I've never had more fun in a first half. The Eagles were lost. They were just lost. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't throw. The offensive line was a disaster. Lane Johnson goes out with an injury. Saquon Barkley's getting bottled up. Like, they were lucky to have 7 points at halftime. They were genuinely lucky to only be down by 12 at halftime. And
for context, it was 19-7 at the break.
Right. And I want to get into that number in a little bit, but begrudgingly, just so that nobody comes after me, begrudgingly, I want to give Jalen Hurts and the Eagles a lot of credit for their ability to strap themselves up by their whatevers and lock in the second half. I will also recognize the fact that when you have a team that cannot carry out a successful field goal operation, it gets blocked twice down the stretch, and they have Emmanuel Forbes covering A.J. Brown, which we have multiple games of tape as to why that's a disaster, and they still keep on trotting out there and doing it. And also getting away with a couple push-offs here and there. I know that one in the end zone on the A.J. Brown touchdown was a bit of a flop, but still could have been called, whatever, sue me. But it's kind of a foolproof win here for the Eagles in terms of their comeback. You can't point at something and be like, that was BS. Like, no, they took advantage of the mismatch with Brown on Forbes. They took advantage of the Rams being inept on special teams, and they took advantage of this thing in particular, which is just driving me nuts. The Rams, listen, I like Sean McVay, begrudgingly, again, because of his time in Washington. I like Sean McVay, but he coached this game scared, even when they were up by a ton. I mean, listen, the first play of the second half, they strip sack Jalen Hurts, and the second play of the second half, they run it in for a touchdown with Kyron Williams. The game should have been over. And take Dan Campbell, for example. The Rams were driving the ball into Eagles territory at will, but when they would stall out at the 25 or the 20 or the 30, on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, what would they do? Josh Carty, get out there, kick a field goal. Even when the Eagles were starting to score and move the ball on the Rams defense, you should have, if you're Sean McVay, said, listen, down the stretch here, this might not be a game that field goals can win. We have Matthew freaking Stafford at quarterback. Let's just try and move the chains. If they convert one of those 4th downs and wind up scoring a touchdown, that's 7 points, which is greater than the 6 you get on 2 field goals. That's the calculus of going for it on 4th down that the boomers don't get. 7 is a greater number than 3 plus 3. You'd rather convert 1 4th down and get a touchdown than convert 0 4th downs twice and get 2 field goals. It's simple. The Eagles, on the other hand, do go for it on 4th down, and they do convert, and they take advantage of the mismatches, like I said, and they made the big plays down the stretch. As much as I'd like to fault the Rams for having 2 field goals blocked, really, I think this one comes down to coaching. I think Sean McVay got out-coached by Nick Sirianni in the second half of this game. I think Jalen Hurts played his best 2 quarters of football since the Super Bowl in the second half of this game. And obviously, listen, we said it for weeks, Gio, right? Good things happen when you throw the ball to A.J. Brown, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an interesting game though with the blocks and everything. I have to agree with you. I think that they should have gone for it in some of those situations. And in hindsight, maybe Sean McVay's sitting here today agreeing with you as well. What does this mean for the landscape of the NFC? I know it's week 3, but now you have a Philadelphia team that's humming at 3-0. And we thought that maybe one of the teams that can contend with them towards the top was LA. This is now the second time in as many trips to Philadelphia that LA has given them quite the fight and couldn't get it done. playoff game last year and then this regular season game.
Right. And really, it's the second time in as many games that the Rams have kind of beaten themselves.
Yeah.
In the playoff game, it was the turnovers and the snow, obviously. And then in this game, it was just completely giving it away down the stretch. I think the Rams are going to be fine. Funnily enough, I thought their weak link in this game offensively actually was Matthew Stafford, but I understand that playing the Eagles defense is no fun for anybody. Listen, both these teams are still strong, but they also both have their weaknesses. I don't like either secondary. I think both quarterbacks are good, but had their struggles in this game. I think you saw what happens when the top targets on both these teams get the ball in terms of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. This was
Puka had a game.
Yeah, this game was receiver's delight. That touchdown by Adams was awesome. A.J. Brown was amazing down the stretch as well. This was a heavyweight fight that just turned into a clown fiesta. You know, this was like Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. It's not exactly what we expected to see, and it wasn't like the best fight in the world, but at least it went the distance. You know what I'm saying?
It was entertaining though.
So yeah, I can't say the same about Pacquiao Mayweather in all fairness. So the Rams are going to be fine. The Eagles are lucky to have banked these three wins because they could just again as easily have been 0-3 as they are 3-0. And they're in first place. And, you know, Dallas is a disaster and New York's making a quarterback change. Washington's dealing with injuries. So the Eagles, man, they're just going to keep banking wins. And I said it before, they're going to keep eking their way to 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. Are they going to get away with it this week at Tampa Bay, a team that's also dealing with a ton of injuries? I don't know. But somebody's got to walk away with from that game with their first loss. So
both of those teams have been escaping fires late in games.
Exactly. So
God
knows how's that one going to finish on Sunday. I think the Eagles are going to be something does. Dude, the other shoe has to drop. So something is the Eagles are going to be fine, but again, I just don't think they're the team they were last year.
Crazy take. If the Eagles lose to the Rams, if the Eagles lose to the Buccaneers, rather than it being Green Bay, I think the Buccaneers have a nice driver's seat to that 1 seed.
I agree. The 4-0 with a really manageable remaining schedule.
Yeah. Speaking of Green Bay, and we're gonna kind of pick up the pace here a little bit because we got into the meat and potatoes of some of the games we wanted to, but wanted to talk about a few others. Green Bay loses. They go to Cleveland and lose to the Browns. Putrid offense across the board on display by both of these teams. Unbelievable defense on display by both of these teams. And the Browns get it done. Syracuse hero Andre Schmidt kicks the game-winning field goal, but it was all set up by the fact that Jordan Love does really the one thing you can't do, which is turn it over with an interception deep in your own territory, setting up the Browns with excellent field position and really letting them right back into the game.
The Packers might have needed a slice of the old humble pie. You know what I'm saying? They had who was their player who went in front of the media was like, I think we could go undefeated. I looked at the rest of our schedule and I don't see anybody that can beat us. Then you lose to the Browns as 8.5-point road favorites. And then LaFleur had to come out in the media in his Monday press conference and be like, our players should be focused on going 1-0 every week, not looking ahead. I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign. But to your point,
how does Cleveland, by the way, score 13 points in the fourth quarter to win it?
Because they were set up by Green Bay's ineptitude. I mean, they have the field goal drive, and then Jordan Love throws what should be like a 90-yard touchdown to Matthew Golden, but instead of leading him up, he leads him out. So Golden steps out with like a 40-yard gain instead of what should have been a 90-yard touchdown. Jordan Love throws the pick. They give the Browns every opportunity. The Browns were struggling to score inside the 5, and then finally they punched it in with Quinshon Judkins because I think Green Bay committed a penalty on a 3rd and goal or something like that. So shout out to Judkins, 18 points in fantasy this week. I told you that kid's an absolute stud. So shout out to Ole Miss and Ohio State for that. And then again, special teams operations, man, they're so important. And Rich Bisaccia is a good special teams coach, but it feels like the Packers always find a way to muck it up on special teams. They give away the block. Shelby Harris is a stud in the middle of any unit he's in. He's going to get a hand up and deflect something. Browns damn near return it for a touchdown. They have that flawless operation on the stretch to set up Schmidt, who converts this time. So listen, losses happen. Okay, it's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. I give the Browns a ton of props for knocking out a bunch of people in my survivor pool. But the Packers needed this slice of humble pie. I'm not going to overreact because I think the Browns have a legit amazing defense.
Elite defense. I was just going to say that.
They nailed every one of those picks in the draft. Schlesinger is
it's
a dog.
Unfortunate that their offense is so poor.
It is because their defense is amazing.
Their defense I think Miles is like championship caliber.
Yeah, I think Myles Garrett through 3 games is the best player in football. So it's less about the Packers' ineptitude offensively. Their defense is still great. I wish we got a little more out of Green Bay in this game. They didn't really deserve. They deserve to lose down the stretch because they gave it away. But the sky is not falling for them by any means. This is a good loss, if that makes sense. They're never
hard to constitute it as that when you lose to Cleveland and only score 10 points. But I hear
you. But it's not like you got blown out by. Sure. I mean, we're not having the same reaction to this game as we had to Detroit losing to Green Bay. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay.
Like sure. It's maybe a good loss isn't the right way to put it, but it's not one that's going to make people's minds explode. I think they're going to be fine.
Want to talk about Thursday night football, and it feels like it was 2 weeks ago at this point. But Buffalo takes down Miami in Buffalo 31-21. I think a lot of people were expecting a blowout. This game was a lot closer than this final score indicates. And I have plenty of points to talk about with Buffalo. But first, I want to start with Miami and the fact that there were people going into Thursday night thinking this was going to be Mike McDaniel's last game as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And to their credit, to his credit, that team was prepared and played incredibly hard. Like, he has not lost that locker room. They played super hard, and that was the dialogue on Friday after the game. And again, it feels like once you get to Tuesday, that was 2 weeks ago at this point. But that's a huge talking point with the Miami Dolphins right now is the fact that McDaniel not only didn't lose the locker room, they put on a really nice display. I thought Tua played one of the better games we've seen him play in a long time until he throws the interception to Bernard, ends up being the sealer in favor of Buffalo. But until that point, he was playing really, really good football at the quarterback spot. Again, things to talk about with Buffalo. But first, I want to get your thoughts on McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins and their efforts on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I thought the Dolphins came out and they didn't lie down and die. And the fact that that was the expectation kind of told you what you needed to know about the state of the franchise. I don't think this game came down to, you said it, Mike McDaniel clearly hasn't lost a locker room. So I don't think it comes down to McDaniel. I think it comes down to Tua because I think Tua, the locker room is not going to keep supporting Tua. You obviously want to keep supporting your franchise quarterback, and they don't really have a choice at this point. But I mean, listen, there was not a completion of 10 plus yards in this game on either side. There didn't need to be for Buffalo because their run game is amazing. And for what it's worth, right. I think Devon Achane had a good game for Miami, but their whole thing is quick out, screen, slant, whatever. Every time Tua threw the ball down the field, it was just a duck. He's not a requisite athlete. Like he's such a good quarterback from the neck up, but such a bad NFL player from the neck down that it just looks awkward. And again, they don't have a choice. This isn't a Jackson Dart situation where you drafted a guy in the first round to be your guy. Like, no, you've got a $250 million investment at quarterback.
He gets paid more than Mahomes.
That can't play quarterback. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, obviously that's a rash statement, but he's not playing at an NFL level as well as he might have played in this game, which was fine. Again, that's also all you need to know about Tua. If anybody else had 22 completions for 140 yards, with no completions of 10 plus yards, we would be like, what the hell? And Josh Allen didn't have a completion of 10 yards either. But again, he didn't have to because they run the ball so well. And he was still quick, accurate, decisive, whatever, had 3 passing touchdowns in this game. So I give credit to Miami for putting up a fight. I still think McDaniel will be fired at some point. And if they decide to make a move where they play Quinn Ewers, I wouldn't be remotely surprised either. It's just the fact that it's not that easy. So I feel bad for their talent on offense to have to deal with Tua being their quarterback. That's my main takeaway.
Yeah. Let's talk about Buffalo for a brief moment here. This is a team that's scored 30 or more points in every game so far this season, and they did it against the Jets with Josh Allen not accounting for a touchdown. And they did it in this game with Josh Allen not having a completed pass that was 10 yards or more past the line of scrimmage. That's how many different ways this offense can dice you up. And then defensively, some people have said that they've, bent too much and they've allowed a lot of points and whatnot. I think they've bent a lot and haven't broken. I think that a lot of people are going to surrender a ton of points to a team like the Baltimore Ravens, especially with how banged up the Bills were and still are in that game. Now they're without Milano for a second, right? Their cornerback room was so thin. They were struggling to tackle Derrick Henry essentially in that game. And they're going to be healthier as the year continues to go along, right? These aren't like season-ending injuries. The thing I'll say about the Bills defense is the fact that sure, they bend and don't break, but they have a knack for taking the football away late in games.
Yeah,
and they did it in this game.
Moments.
Yeah, they did it in this game. They did it against the Ravens. They didn't have to against the Jets, but they took the ball away against the Jets too. They create havoc. They take the football away from you. And that's one thing that this Buffalo Bills defense does really good. I mean, I'm probably going to say it every week. And honestly, dude, we're not going to talk about the Bills much for the next 4 or 5 weeks. We're not going to talk about them until November 2nd when they play the Chiefs, to be honest, because their next set of games are the Saints, some mix of the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers,
the Patriots,
and I think that's it, 4 weeks. And then they play the Chiefs on November 2nd. Maybe there's one more game in there that I'm missing. We're not going to talk a lot about the Bills. But the way the schedule shapes up with the AFC East being what it is and then them playing the NFC South and every difficult game being at home, with that being Kansas City, with that being Philadelphia. The Bengals was supposed to be a tough game, and now looks like that should be a walk in the park. They got Baltimore at home. All those games are at home. Their hardest game on the schedule left is to go play. I don't remember exactly who it is. They even play the Buccaneers in Buffalo. Like, it's crazy. I mean, we're seriously looking at the runaway for the 1 seed in the AFC, I think. And I don't think they're going to get a lot of love till they play the Chiefs just because it's going to be ho-hum every week. But they might score 30 in all of those games.
Yeah, I think they're the top team in the NFL until proven otherwise. They might drop a dud like the Packers just did. Who knows? But their offense is operating at a crazy rate right now, right? They lead the league in offensive EPA per play. Their defense is doing what they have to do. Like you said, they're creating timely turnovers. So as long as, listen, the pleasant surprise for me has been this run game. I think James Cook has been amazing. It's a combination of the way their offensive line's playing in addition to the way he's seeing things right now. So that's been a huge lift for them to open things up in the passing game for Josh Allen. As long as they keep on humming like this, they're going to be my number 1 team moving forward.
Anything else we didn't talk about that you want to run through here before we wrap up the show? I mean, you had an interesting win for the Buccaneers over the Jets. Kind of shouldn't have been close, and then again, Baker gets it done late. You had block. What was up with all the blocked field goals this week, dude?
I know, dude. It was a special teams week in the NFL. You had a punt return touchdown in Washington. You had a punt return touchdown in Seattle. You had block kicks out the wazoo.
Jalen Lane.
Shout out to Jalen Lane, Hokie. So I could not express my stunnedness. That's not a word, but we'll go with it. When the Jets returned that kick for a touchdown, because the Bucs were my survivor pick this week, and they had given up 6 points going into the fourth quarter. I was like, easiest pick of my life. Everybody who picked the Packers is rolling in their graves right now. I'm absolutely chilling, whatever. And then I'm like, oh my God. And Aaron Glenn is dancing on the sideline. I'm like, I can't believe it's ending like this. But then I remember
The dancing on the sideline was hilarious.
amazing.
I saw it.
Amazing.
I saw it paired up with, I don't remember what music, but it was the most perfect. I think it was what's that? 21st Night of September.
Yeah. Because it
It
was
was
the
paired
21st
up.
of September.
Yes, it was paired up with that, but it was like so fitting. I almost have to find it. You continue to talk.
Yeah, it was like right on beat. But then I was stunned, but then I remembered, oh, they got number 6 in the creamsicle jerseys back there. The Buccaneers are still winning this game, and lo and behold, he drives them down and wins it. So Tampa, pretty good team right now. How can you not love this guy?
That's
Actually perfect.
That's fantastic. We're gonna get copyrighted for that now, and it's worth it.
I do feel bad for Aaron Glenn and the Jets because they've lost 2 games. They maybe really should have won. I mean, they shouldn't have won this game, but they could have. Like the Jets could be 2-1 right now. Instead, they're 0-3.
They could have beat the Steelers.
Bucks are dealing with so many injuries right now. It's kind of spooky. But like, listen, Baker, Bucky, and Mecca are playing out of their minds right now. And on defense, they're getting amazing contributions out of Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield, the usual suspects. Even Levante David's having a pretty good year. So, and Jamel Dean had a pick in this game. It might have been a pick 6. I can't really remember. But Jamel Dean, I know, had a big play in this game. So they're interesting, man. I mean, elsewhere in Florida, you had the Jags take down the Texans in like the worst game ever played. Texans are 0-3 now, man. Is it too early to stick a fork in them?
You don't make the playoffs when you're 0-3. 6 teams have ever done it.
The last team to do it was the Houston Texans.
Do we feel the conviction that this Houston team's going to do it? I don't know. They have so much talent. But the reason I don't feel the conviction either, but I do feel like that if there's a team assembled to make it happen, could be them. If CJ can get it together and whatnot, because they have a good defense. We know on paper the defense is good. Defense has played fine. And
yeah, they played incredible.
They got to get it together on offense.
They could be 3-0 too.
Yeah.
But the offense is in their way. The Texans have scored 38 points in 3 games. The Saints scored that in the first half against New Orleans this week. Like, just to put that in perspective of how cosmically bad.
Yeah.
The Seahawks did it against the Saints.
Yeah.
In the first half. The Texans have done it in 12 quarters. That's how bad Houston's offense has been. CJ looks uncomfortable and rattled and everything.
They should have hired Jeff Nixon.
Maybe they should have. I mean,
Syracuse offensive coordinator that they were looking at. He was in for that job.
And I thought Caley was a good hire, but it's just, I don't know. I think a lot of the problems stem from the offensive line, but CJ is just not CJ right now. He's playing horrendous football, and they can't run the ball, and it's a disaster. So Lord knows what the Texans are going to do sitting at 0-3, looking up at 2-1 Jacksonville and 3-0 Indianapolis. So shout out to the Colts and Indiana Jones. I don't know why I picked the Titans to win this game. I'm glad I didn't put any monetary value on it. The Vikings made absolute light work of the Bengals. That game was over before it started, which is unreal. Shout out to Isaiah Rodgers, highest rated game in the history of PFF, for whatever that's worth. I don't really subscribe to their system, but that's definitely not worth nothing. And 2 defensive touchdowns in one game. You don't see that every day, especially coming in 2 different facets. When was the last time someone had a pick 6 and a fumble return for a touchdown, especially at the corner position? So shout out to him. The Falcons, only God knows what happened to them down in Carolina. Michael Penix Jr. still needs some seasoning. The tape there, because Washington plays Atlanta, so I went and watched the Penix tape. He's not uncomfortable. He's not confident, is the way I would put it. He's not confident, particularly throwing over the middle. They've really schemed up things well. Dude, Kyle Pitts should be having a good year, but Penix refuses to throw the ball over the middle because he doesn't trust himself. I guess I know this is a problem that so many people have with left-handed quarterbacks, is how they see the middle of the field worse. And I hate to subscribe to that theory, but I'm seeing it right now with Atlanta and their defense. That was the talk of the town, particularly on my end after 2 weeks, just got raced by Bryce Young.
The NFL is so weird.
It's not great. I do want to give, dude, what a difficult week for my hate watches. I want to give a shout out to the Chicago Bears, man. Caleb Williams, his best game as a pro. It only took playing a CFL defense, but well done. I hope you guys feel good about yourselves, because that's one of the only wins that you'll have all year. The Chiefs finally picked up the win on Sunday Night Football. The Giants are a mess. Russell Wilson is a joke. Again, I said it was a disservice to keep playing him. And now they're finally making the change to Dart this week against the Chargers. So we shall see how that plays out for them. And then really quickly, just to touch on the commies. I don't know why I was so nervous about this game going into it, because the Raiders are a lot worse than I thought they would be. And even I thought they were going into this game. Their offensive line is a mess. Ashton Genty has negative yards before contact this season. That is an unbelievable stat, because that essentially means he's getting brought down, or at least touched in the backfield, every single time he touches the ball. The only other player in the NFL that has that to their name right now is Chase Brown. And Chase Brown has the least amount of yards for a player with 45 carries through 3 games in the history of the NFL. He has 47 carries for 93 yards. So it's not a conversation you want to be in. I thought we dominated both lines of scrimmage. It really showed. Listen, they came out in jumbo, I want to say a dozen times, Gio. A dozen. And not just jumbo. It was jumbo with 2 tight ends. They told the Raiders, hey, we're running the ball on every play. Try and stop us. And they couldn't. So I want to give a huge shout out to our offensive line. I thought Josh Connerly played his best game as a pro. I thought Bill made the most of his touches as always. Each of the running backs in the committee did their thing. Jeremy McNichols had the long touchdown run, which was dope. Jalen Lane with the punt return touchdown was awesome. Deebo Samuel set the tone from the opening kick, which was great. Again, everybody needs to write me an apology. I'll drop my P.O. box in the description. And Mariota, man, did what he does. Beats up on tomato cans, which I really appreciate. It's now a point, Gio, I think, where if they want to keep sitting Jaden for as long as they need to get him healthy, I'm comfortable with it. I think Mariota, this mini revenge tour against the Raiders and now the Falcons coming up, I sign up for it. I'm all about being safe and not sorry.
Yeah.
Now you got a situation where Terry McLaurin's status is up in the air, getting hurt on the touchdown that should not have been overturned. So injury bugs hitting the Commanders hard, but they're good enough still. They're deep enough and well coached enough to make it work against the bad teams on their schedule. So if they still are dealing with these injuries and come out of Atlanta next week 3-1 without Jaden Daniels and maybe without Terry McLaurin, I feel a lot better. And I think, again, it just goes to show how difficult of a circumstance it was for them last Thursday in Green Bay. I think Washington is still a pretty good team.
I'd have to agree with you there for sure. I think that wraps things up. I think that recaps week 3 in the NFL. Coming up throughout the rest of the week, you can check out our college football picks that you'll see. You can also find pretty much all of these chunked up individually. We'll have our NFL picks, both that and college, coming up on Thursday and Friday.
Massive week of college football.
Huge.
You do not want to miss it, because our picks videos, we like to keep them short, but how the hell are we going to do that when it's like it's a Denny's breakfast buffet of games in college football this week? I can't wait to break that down.
We're going to have to set aside a little bit of extra time this week. No question. Where can the people find us on social media, Raza?
They can find us at Got It Covered FB. FB stands for football, obviously.
Not Facebook.
Instagram, not Facebook, no, or I don't know, something else it might stand for. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are going to put out more short form content moving forward. Not everybody has time to sit down and listen to us for 50 minutes. If you do, here's a smooch for you. But digestible chunks of everything, like Gio said, are going up constantly throughout the week, and more like really short form reels, shorts, TikToks, whatever, are coming your way as well. So stay tuned through it all. Got It Covered FB on all socials. I'm at Raza Marani on everything. He's at GeoHeater on everything. Or he's at GeoHeater on everything, I should say. So yeah, keep up, and we're really getting in the groove of things now, brother.
We're starting to get into the groove of things. No question about it. All right. We will talk to you later on this week. Enjoy the rest of your week. No football to watch, so I can't even bid you an enjoyable football for the next 2 days, but we'll shout at everybody on Thursday. For Raza, I'm Giovanni Heater. We got you covered.